Welcome to this flight of the Retail Pilot. I'm your host, Ken Pilot, former CEO and current brand advisor, retail tech investor, and board member. I'm thrilled to share with you the insights from some of retail's leaders and legends, as well as my perspective on retail today. This podcast is sponsored by the following. Predict Spring is a global point-of-sale platform live in 22 countries. The platform includes mobile POS, endless aisle, fulfillment, inventory management, and clienteling, creating a true omni experience for customers and associates. Predict Spring powers Suit Supply, Converse, Lovesac, Decium, Janie and Jack, and Bouclair. Breakfast helps brands like HelloFresh, Perfume.com, and QVC increase revenue across Meta and TikTok by creating hundreds of user-generated content video ads. The Breakfast Creator Network, with over 5,000 strong, produces original content that is authentic to each platform and built to drive performance, all done in as little as 3 weeks. Check out breakfast.io. That's BRKFST.io. My guest today is Sharon Leite, currently serving as Chief Executive Officer of Ideal Image, the nation's leading med spa provider. Prior to Ideal Image, Sharon was the CEO of Vitamin Shoppe for 5 years, launched a new technology-driven format, opened distribution to new sales channels, increased development and penetration of private brands, introduced personalization initiatives, pioneered an expansive CBD hemp extract merchandising program, and expanded the business into Asia. Sharon honed her retail skills serving in leadership positions with Godiva, Pier 1, Bath & Body Works, Gap, the Walt Disney Company, and Express. Sharon currently serves on the boards of the National Retail Federation, Lovesac Company, Tandy Leather Factory, Inc., Women in Retail Leadership, the Performing Arts of Fort Worth, and the Neely Business School at Texas Christian University. She is also a member of the Senior Advisory Council of AEA Investors. It's great to welcome my friend, colleague, and incredible leader, Sharon Leite, to this flight of the Retail Pilot. Sharon, so great to see you.
Likewise, Ken. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
We go back a number of years. You've had an incredible,
we do.
And so much to discuss around your new job. But before we discuss your new role as CEO of Ideal Image and the company, I'd love for you to share more about your journey. You've worked with so many great companies in key positions. What led you to retail?
Actually, I fell into retail. This will give a little bit of my age away in that my first retail job, I answered an ad from a newspaper while I was going to college, and it was an opportunity to work in a women's clothing store, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the opportunity to make people feel good, loved working with customers, and from that point on, I was just hooked. And it's been quite a journey. I'm grateful for the industry and what it's provided me and my family and the things I've gotten to experience and learn, and just been a wonderful student of the industry as well. It's been a great ride for sure.
Take us through your highlights prior to becoming CEO of the Vitamin Shoppes. You worked for so many great companies, from the Walt Disney Company all the way through Gap, Express, Godiva Chocolates. You also sit on a number of boards. What were some of the things that you're most proud of, some of your accomplishments, and also some of the challenges you faced over that period of time?
My career's kind of been in 3 stages. It's been the early part of my career was very much about learning the business, working for great brands, really kind of understanding the basic fundamentals about the consumer experience and how retail as the industry kind of fit into all of that. And, figuring out how I wanted to grow in this industry. And that was during the time when I was at Express, the Walt Disney Company, and Gap Inc. What was really kind of neat during that period of time also is it fit in my life as well. When I started at Express, I wasn't married. It was fun. It was fashion. And it kind of fit with who I was as a person at that particular time. Then I went on and worked at the Walt Disney Company. I was a young mom. And so I had a daughter, and it was perfect because I got to take her to the Walt Disney and really experience Disney, not just in terms of the company that I got to work for, but I got to experience it through her eyes. And it was such a big part of, what I learned from Disney in terms of connecting with the guest and the guest experience and the importance of the cast member through that whole experience. And then when I went to go work for Gap Inc., and it was the very, very early days at Old Navy, it was again back in fashion. It was fun. Megan, who was my daughter, had the cutest clothes, and it was really fun because it was a family type of brand. And it was really great to, again, be a part of learning about the business and retail, but being able to connect personally with what I was doing. And so it became not just about my job, but about my life. So I love the fact that, and I've always been a big believer when I talk to people about their careers, don't only do something that connects you professionally, but do something that connects with you personally too. And for me, that worked, and that really connected my professional life with my personal life and what I believe is a part of my success. The next part of my career was about getting the opportunity to turn around businesses. And after I left Bath and Body Works, which is where I went after the Gap, I had the opportunity to be part of the growth of BBW. At the time I joined the organization, there were only 700 Bath and Body Works stores. And when I left, there were 1,600, and now there are so many more. And it was a great way to go through that incredible growth. It was the first chance I also got to learn about e-commerce because I was part of the team that launched VictoriaSecret.com and BathAndBodyWorks.com, which was a new frontier for retail. And then again, as I said, moving into the opportunity to turn around businesses, which is where I went to work for Pier 1 Imports and had a long stint there. Was able to take all of these experiences that I had from the kind of my full retail years and bring that to a business that had been a legacy brand, been around for almost 50 years. And to be able to take kind of those very important retail fundamentals and what was happening with the consumer and bring that to this legacy brand, and had an incredible run there and left as the chief customer officer by the time that I left there. Then went on to had a small stint at Sally Beauty, which will be one of the things that I will talk about in terms of my missteps. While it was a good opportunity for me, it wasn't the right opportunity for me long term. Being able to have the opportunity to then move to Godiva, be part of the turnaround of the Godiva North America, work with somebody like Annie Young Scrivener, who was previously had been at Starbucks, really enjoyed my time working with her. And then moving to what was my biggest turnaround story, which is what I just left, which was at the Vitamin Shop. And it was also the first opportunity that I had to be a public company CEO, which had always been a career aspiration of mine. And just the opportunity to kind of be able to say, here's a part of my career that is about kind of learning. And then you go into growth and application. And then being able to take learning and growth and application and applying that to what it meant to turn around legacy businesses has been, I think a great story of what you can do in retail and the opportunities that exist for those that decide to join this profession.
So you hit on something that I think is also very important to really underscore, and it's passion, and it's passion in connection to your mission. I think far more than money, far more than how much you're being paid. If you're not passionate about the business, the company, the brand, product, I don't know if you can really be successful. Money may feel good for a period of time, but money won't motivate you if you're not connected to the company. And I found that in my career, wanting to really work with brands that I either use, loved, admired, wear, all of the above. Being paid well is great too. But jobs that are bad, no matter how much you're being paid, just fall short of the mark. And then you lose the energy, the motivation, and the ability to perform well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. I think that that also connects with culture of an organization and being able to drive results in truly meaningful ways. I've always been a big believer when you lead people and you're leading businesses, when you love, and I've also always said, love what you do so you never have to work a day in your life, is that when you can really embody that spirit in everything that you do. And I've never been a good person around disconnecting my professional life from my personal life. It's just who I am. It's kind of what drives me. It's what inspires me to kind of keep going. And I think it comes through with how you deliver messages, the things that you focus on, how you prioritize, the way you treat others, the expectations that you set for the team, the way in which you go about delivering on that. Your team and the people that you're around, whether it's your investors, whether it's your board, whether it's your customer, you feel that. There's one of the things I love about the retail business is that you get to bring your whole self to retail. And that retail has so many opportunities when you think about career growth. And I've been the recipient of that I've gotten to do everything from run a store to actually run the business and everything in between. And it's only because just my love for the industry, my love of whatever the brand is that I happen to be a part of at that time, and really kind of making it and giving it all you've got. My dad has, one of the fundamental leadership kind of principles, and the way I've always tried to live my life is I can remember being a little girl in our house on Charney Road in University Heights, Ohio, which is a suburb outside of Cleveland. And I can remember he and I sitting at the kitchen table. And I remember him telling me when I was little, he says, Sharon, he says, if you're not going to give it your all, just don't bother. It's just not worth it. You won't get your best work and you just ultimately won't be successful. And I remember him saying, and honey, it just won't be fun. And I've always, I think that was probably a conversation we had when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And it's something that has stuck with me. And I really believe that that's a big part of how you kind of should live your life and the way you think about work and how you can help others in a leadership role and ultimately drive the success that you're looking for.
Well, as long as I've known you, you've always had this positive energy and aura around the jobs you were doing, the people you were working with, the companies you were leading. And clearly has to be a key part of your success. You hit on one company where maybe there wasn't a successful time or a place where you came up short. What happened?
Yeah, so I was finishing up 8 incredible years at Pier 1 Imports, and I was at a crossroads. The current CEO wasn't going anywhere, and I had kind of done everything that I felt that I could do, and there wasn't any place for me to go. An opportunity came with Sally Beauty in Denton, Texas, which would have been the first opportunity and the next job that I had gone to that I didn't have to move. For once in my life, I was like, oh, this could be good. Like I could be the president of a company and run a business, continued my career progression. And for the first time ever in my career as a retail gypsy, not have to move my family. So that was a really driving force for, part of the decision, career progression, and a personal one as well. But the gap was I didn't do my due diligence in really understanding where the board had felt about the business in relationship to what I really believed the business needed for it to continue to be successful for the consumer that it served. And it was my lack of my desire to move on with true understanding of what the board was driving and the expectation that was misaligned. And so it became very clear, fortunately, in a short period of time, that this wasn't going to be the fit for me and I needed to move on. And so therefore, it was the shortest stint pretty much that I've had in my career. It was an incredible lesson for me. It helped me in the next opportunity and has continued to serve me well as I have moved on to other opportunities, as well as it has helped me be a more effective board member in terms of when I talk to CEOs, when I talk to other people that I speak to that are coming to join a company, now sitting on the other side in a board seat to make sure that the organization or that the decisions being made are the best ones based on what I had learned during that time.
I had a very similar experience when I joined American Eagle, and my failure of due diligence, because I trusted in the two CEOs, the co-CEOs at the time, Jim O'Donnell and Roger Markfield, I really failed to understand who else was on the team. I was so excited to join and be part of this new opportunity that I failed to do my due diligence around a couple of the other folks that were on the leadership team. Had I done any of that work, they have decided that the opportunity or the fit wasn't there. So I think lesson learned is more than getting excited about a brand or a company, do your
Mm-hmm.
work, your homework. There's more to a company than just being allowed to work hybrid.
Yeah, for
Things that are
sure.
more important, knowing who you're going to work with. And I think most of all, understanding the boss,
Yep,
because people don't quit companies, they quit bosses.
that's right.
We've talked about that before. And, or if the board has a very different point of view and you're not aligned, it's not going to work. So we fast forward. You had a great run at Vitamin Shoppe. Why don't you talk a little bit about the highlights there? And then also your interesting move to an area that I don't know much about, which is a franchise model.
Yeah, when I joined the Vitamin Shop, it was an incredible opportunity. Alex Smith, who had been my boss at Pier 1 Imports, was the chairman of our board. And he gave me a call and said, "Hey, Sharon, I have this company that I'm the chairman of, and it really needs a good, strong operator. And I think you'd be great for the opportunity. Would you consider talking to me about it?" And I talked to him about it. And because I would be first time public company CEO, there were a couple things that really stood out to me in terms of why I felt this was a great opportunity. One, I had somebody that I knew and trusted. So back to those lessons learned about making sure you're aligned with the board and understanding, what was going to work or not. I knew that he wouldn't put me in a position and would help me be successful. I knew that he would make sure that if there were things that, sometimes there are questions you don't know to ask, especially when you're in the seat for the first time. And especially when you talk about, you're now the one having the call with the investment community. You're the one now doing the earnings calls. You're the one, having to work with a board. And what does that really mean when you're in the seat? I knew he would do everything he could to set me up to succeed. So it was a great opportunity. The other thing so that was great in terms of support. But the other thing that saw when I went to see the Vitamin Shop is I didn't really know much about health and wellness at the time. And when I started again, learning my lesson from before, doing my due diligence on the company and the industry, I went into a Vitamin Shop and I saw this incredible opportunity. And the opportunity that I saw was, number one, health and wellness had incredible tailwinds around what was happening in the market. Obviously, this is pre-COVID, but just health, fitness, the connectivity to how people were living healthy lifestyles. I knew that there was something here, like there was gold here. And the other thing that I connected and I looked at it is it reminded me of the beauty business. So if you think of how beauty has evolved, the Sephoras, the Ultas of the world, and you think about the way beauty used to be displayed, and you think about how it looked in food, drug, and mass, it kind of looked like an old Vitamin Shop. If you think about it, way back in the day. And so I looked at this and I thought, okay, lots of SKUs, small products, telling stories, not well, by the way. I thought, if we could demystify this category, because, oh, by the way, there's so much bad information out there on the nutritional supplement industry in general, we could create something really, really special here. The other thing about the Vitamin Shop, when you just look at where it's at in the market, it really didn't have any direct competition. It had competition from all over the place. A lot of people connected to GNC, but GNC is much more of a sports nutrition brand in terms of what their products were, in terms of where they really focused, versus where the Vitamin Shop was really on a whole person. And yes, Amazon, Whole Foods, Sprouts, all the places that you would think. But from a true specialty retail, there really wasn't anybody out there that could do it. And oh, by the way, there were almost 800 doors just in the United States. And I thought, wow, this could be just an unbelievable opportunity. But there were a couple things that it was missing. It wasn't a brand. It was a place that sold a bunch of stuff. It didn't merchandise think like a retailer. It didn't tell stories, think like a retailer. And it was woefully behind digitally. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is gold. And so I went and and by the way, margins, very healthy, very healthy. That helps. And so it was the opportunity and with the board to create something really special. This was a significant lift at the time. It was a turnaround. The business had not been performing. It had lost a ton of share to everybody else, but it was because it didn't stand for something. And it was because it didn't know the customer and really define and understand how it could fit in the marketplace. and find its voice. And so that was the mission. Like, how do we make this a great brand? How do we really know and understand and love our customer? And how do we create and tell stories and be the market leader and stand for quality, innovation, and expertise in the industry and align ourselves with the experts out there in the industry? An organization of what we call our associates, called our health enthusiasts, who could truly be experts to provide the customer with information that they could learn and trust. Well, fast forward, COVID happened, and all of a sudden we were shut down. So the turnaround was well underway. We had started to rebrand the business.
Before you go into COVID, you came in, you identified these opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
As a new CEO, what difficult decisions did you need to make to set the company on the path to begin to pursue those opportunities?
Well, besides the fact making sure that I was aligned with the board and that we were aligned on the mission and where we were headed, it's always about the team for me. It's always about surrounding yourself with great people that really share the vision. Because when you go into an organization, especially when you're turning something around, you have a very short timeline to do it in. You don't have time to teach everyone, no matter how great they are. I mean, they may be wonderful, wonderful people, and you so want them to be a part of the journey, but sometimes you don't have time. The ability to surround yourself with people that really understand what great looks like, in some cases, even what good looks like, so that you're not the one having to do it all or help teach that, is a great way to shortcut the ability to move further faster. And so that was really the first year. I spent a tremendous amount of time making sure that I had not only the right people on the bus, but on the right seats on the bus. Because when you're doing that kind of change and you're doing that much change management, again, as long as you're aligned on where you're headed and the way in which you go around to what you're wanting to deliver it, it helps you move it much faster. One of the biggest hires that I made, besides my chief technology officer, who I know you know is Andy Lodato, because he really understands what that is, especially on the tech side. The other really important strategic hire was Muriel Gonzalez, who had led the beauty businesses at Macy's and worked at Estee Lauder. So she knew the vision that I had around beauty and how do we do this? Because for me, it's about product, it's about the customer, and it's about enabling those to work together and making sure you obviously have the people and the engine to make all of that happen that can really fuel it. And then the rest of it will fall in place. But really understanding the kind of core fundamentals of how to make that business move and making sure you have the key leaders in place to do that can really make a huge difference.
Fast forward COVID, your stores are closed.
Yeah. So COVID happens. We are shut down. And we, like so many people we had to fight our way to get back. Interestingly enough, what allowed us to be open was not the fact that we sold vitamin, minerals, and supplements. It was the fact that we sold food, and we sold functional foods, and we sold water, and we sold things so that people could eat. And so that's what really drove the fact that we could stay open when other retailers were closed. Yes, we did close for a period of time, but we understood that stipulation. And so we literally went, in some cases, jurisdiction by jurisdiction to fight to be open. And so we fought our way to be open.
Was it called the essentials, or I know Target, or a number of companies that were allowed to stay open because they were essential?
Yes. So we really worked very hard to show how essential we were. But it was interesting that it was the food component of our business that really drove that ability to be open. And so with COVID, the centrality of the fact that people really took health in a different way lined up quite nicely with the fact of where we were trying to take the brand. And the technology enhancements and the things that we did in what I call that fix the foundation year, my first year there. Because remember, we didn't have a strong e-commerce business. We didn't have a good tech stack. I mean, it was not good. We didn't have a loyalty program. So there were all these things that we didn't have that we had put in place pre-COVID that when we reopened, that it actually accelerated our growth because we didn't have to figure out buy online, pick up in store. We didn't have to figure out curbside pickup. We didn't have to figure out the technology components because we had already done and made those investments previously, connecting that with the storytelling and the work that we had done on the brand and telling the story about the importance of how we could fit into a healthy lifestyle really helped continue to fuel that fire that we had started pre-COVID and made a huge difference in our ability to kind of continue to grow and propel the business forward.
So you came out of COVID stronger than when you went in. I assume also just when you onboarded that the company, which was, as you said, facing some challenging times, probably had a fair amount of internal negativity. How do you come in as a leader and share the vision and create the hope, which maybe they'd heard before from prior leaders, but what did you do to turn around the environment and get them to all get on the bus along with the leadership team that you put in place?
I showed up. I showed up at the distribution centers. I showed up in stores. I showed up at events with the team. We created a celebratory environment where, and still today, it's great. Even now today, I look on LinkedIn with selfies of the team. It became this incredible groundswell and environment of appreciation in the business in terms of not only understanding that we have expectation, but that we created this groundswell of connecting the whole organization. I believe that great leaders show up. I believe they show up when times are tough. And I believe, of course, they celebrate when times are great. But it was through all those times when things were bad that I listened. I tried very hard always when I went into a market to bring people together to understand what was on their mind. And I wanted to act and act quickly. And I started to celebrate them in a very public way and it just kind of became this groundswell and the results started coming. I'm a big believer in when you have a tough plan to deliver, you got to show some green shoots and you got to celebrate those green shoots. I believe those green shoots continue to grow. That's been a big part of what I've been able to do as I've kind of gone into these turnaround situations for businesses. And I also believe that at some point as a leader too, it's important that you step out of the picture and allow other leaders to show them that they can do it. And you start creating the culture of it's not about me, it's about we, and it's about lifting others up and allowing them to see what's possible for them and encourage that growth. And it starts to perpetuate itself. And I'm grateful for the time that we actually had pre-COVID because we were able to kind of put a lot of those kind of teamwork types of things in place, which then allowed us to accelerate coming outside of COVID. Because I will tell you one of the things I find that's really tough, there's this whole discussion and dialogue that's going on right now about remote work and, bringing people back to the office and, all of that type of stuff. And I'm finding it in my current role. It's one thing when you go hybrid and you go remote. When you have a strong culture and you go remote, it's much easier. When you're building something for the first time and it's a remote and you're trying to capture and put your arms around it all, it's so much harder. And that's what I'm dealing with today. But we were fortunate at the Vitamin Shop that were able to do a lot of that groundwork so that when COVID happened and we went remote, and we continue to grow and develop the business, that we were able to do so because of that foundation that we had already previously set.
Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors. Bluecore's software solution turns anonymous online shoppers into known customers and repeat customers. Bluecore enables retailers to personalize and optimize their email, SMS, and site marketing campaigns by delivering targeted and relevant messages based on where every customer is in their journey. Bluecore replaces annoying high-volume messaging with high-value messaging. Customers include Alo Yoga, Neiman Marcus, and Gap. We're back. Hey, Sharon, let's wrap up on Vitamin Shop for the final question. You were a public company that went private. What was that journey like and why?
Well, it was quite a journey for me. So one of the board members and one of the investors that was on our board at the time was Vintage Capital. And Vintage Capital came to the board and asked and had a desire to take us private. And at the time, Ken, it was so important that we had the opportunity to get out of the public eye. You know, when you have an organization that has a lot of things to do, unfortunately, the investor community has a very short attention span, and they don't necessarily understand kind of what has to be done for the good of the business in the long term when you're on a quarterly earnings cycle. And we had a lot of work to do to kind of fix at the Vitamin Shop. And it was really a good opportunity. I was very much for taking the organization private because we needed to get our house in order. What I didn't know at the time was that obviously COVID would happen, shortly thereafter. But for me, I'd only ever worked in a public company environment. So when you go from working in public companies your entire career with that structure and with the way you think about how you run a P&L, because you're looking for that number to drive earnings, it is a different lens on the private side. And I will tell you, I learned more through that process in terms of trying, what it meant to sell the company, go through that process when you have a bid, somebody else comes in, because we actually had we initially had the offer from Vintage. We actually had somebody else come in to purchase us as well. And so I had these two competing offers going on and going through the diligence with the special committee that you have in these situations and just having a better and a different lens around how private companies think about earnings and results and what you invest in was very different in terms of investment and the way you think about cash versus EBITDA. And that whole experience around understanding how you think about the P&L differently was a great education for me. And I will tell you, it has very much shaped my thinking around what I'm doing today and how I'm leading the team. And also when you think about when you work with people that have only been in public companies and now you're in a private company situation, helping them understand maybe the journey that you went through that you didn't understand at the time to help them through that type of situation. Brian Kahn was the owner of Vintage. He was obviously the lead investor. And I probably learned more from him in the last 3 years, reporting to him as my, most important investor, if you will, than I had for many years, because it was such a different way to think about how to run a business.
It's funny because now, as you know, I work for Brian's sister, Paige Perkins.
Yes, you do.
My partner in crime in business these days, and she's amazing. So I know a little bit about the story. So you become a privately held company. L. Catterton reaches out to you and they say, hey, Sharon, we have this company, this brand, Ideal Image. We want you to be the CEO. What are you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you something. I had gotten to a point at the Vitamin Shop where I wasn't going to fulfill my dreams of turning it into a really broad lifestyle company. And I wanted to do more than just sell vitamin minerals and supplements. And we had gone down a path with our private brand portfolio. We were starting to sell our products in other retailers. We started a franchising model, which was another way to drive the business and to drive growth. So we had done a number of things around broadening the reach to become a health and wellness lifestyle company. And I wanted to do more.
So it also provided you an opportunity to start your acting career, if I'm correct.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
You're on Undercover Boss, sneaking into this.
Yes.
It was amazing. So you've got like this skill set that's crazy. So you're taking that skill set to L. Catterton, Ideal Image. Yeah. Tell us about the brand. Tell us about the mandate, the BHAG, I guess the big, hairy, audacious goal, if they still use that term anymore. What were you brought there to do? What did you think there was to do? And why did you go to Ideal Image?
I came to Ideal Image because I really want to build a great women's lifestyle brand in beauty, health, and wellness. I think the convergence of beauty with health and wellness and having a place for women in an aesthetics market that has incredible tailwinds is a tremendous opportunity. Ideal Image is the largest, and it's not large from my perspective. It is the largest med spa in the country today with over 160 doors. with a tremendous opportunity for growth in the category. 80% of the aesthetics market is incredibly fragmented. It's one or two types of, it's offices, it's med spa, individual proprietary ownership. And it is a tremendous opportunity to create what I believe is a world-class brand. L. Catterton, which is, we are one of the portfolio companies of L. Catterton, loves consumer companies. They love building brands. And there was just an alignment in terms of what they wanted and what they saw for the business and what they were willing to support. And again, going back to what I originally talked about at the beginning of this podcast about aligning with the board and understanding vision and building a great experience, customer engagement, culture, breadth of what's possible. We were just incredibly aligned in terms of that vision and being able to deliver on that. And again, taking a kind of a page out of the Vitamin Shoppe book, there's also a lot of misinformation about this category. And I thought that Ideal Image could be a great platform to allow us to showcase what's possible here and to truly be the market leader in medical beauty and medical aesthetics.
When I look online today and I look at Ideal Image, I see it looks like it's all about laser hair removal.
Yeah. We started as a laser hair shop. We started that 20 years ago. That's what the business was.
I see, so laser hair stands out in a big way. There's no e-commerce that I could find that's to be had.
Correct.
So I'm saying, what is Sharon thinking? Where is she taking this? And what will the business look like 2 years from today? I mean, in fairness, you joined the company in January. So a lot of strategy, a lot of discussions, you're getting the right people on the bus. You have a plan, a vision. 2026, what will Ideal Image look like? Or sooner, because you move quickly.
Well, we're reimagining Ideal. In fact, that's what I'm calling it. It's reimagining Ideal. It's reimagining everything. It's reimagining the operating model. It's reimagining a portfolio of services. It's reimagining the culture and the place in which our medical professionals and our team members work. It's the products that we'll carry, the products that we will develop, and it is the market leadership that we will have in the industry that we are working towards. It's also the potential to move into health and wellness. What most people don't know about Ideal Image is we are the only med spa in the country where all of our services are delivered by true medical professionals. We don't have estheticians. We don't have techs. We actually have LPNs, RNs, physician's assistants. They're all degreed professionals delivering on these services. We, by the way, don't talk about that. From a digital perspective, I mean, Ken, you are a digital guy. You know what good looks like for sure. You know what great looks like. You can see that we have a lot to do. We have historically been very focused lead generation business versus an on-demand digital. Everybody's got a, mobile device, in their hand to be able to self-schedule. And so we are reimagining everything. We have some exciting things that will be coming out in early 2024. We are going to be launching a significant work with key partners around assortments, around product offerings. And probably one of the things that when I think about kind of my career and what I aspire to do and kind of leave in this world is the opportunity to give back and to connect our internal customer, external customer to being able to give back in the communities that we serve. One of the things about this industry, it's a very localized and very important to be connected to your local community. And kind of while we may run the business, broadly from a brand perspective, our ability to be local is really important to our consumer. And so how do we really bring broad thinking and, the efficiencies of a larger organization, but really think and act locally? And so our ability to kind of participate in philanthropic efforts locally as well is going to be an important part of how we'll reimagine Ideal as we look ahead. The business will look dramatically different in 2026 in terms of what you see today. And I'm not ready to talk about that yet, but I'd be happy to maybe in another 6 months when we launch a few new things.
I'm reading a little bit between the lines and knowing what you added to Vitamin Shop in the form of marketplace. I'm assuming we'll start to see some partners be onboarded and making product available potentially through e-commerce via marketplace slash dropship, which you and I both love that model. So I'm saying it, you're not saying it. So it was just the bad guy on the other side of the interview who's commenting, but I do see you nodding your head. So maybe that's how we're going to be able to participate more online sooner before you come up with branded product.
We'll have to see how the rest of this story gets written.
And I just got to say, that's a really weak way of guaranteeing you'll be on my podcast in early 2024. But it's always so much fun to talk with you. I'm going to take myself up on that comment. Let's take a quick break with a word from our sponsors. Retech is the leading innovation hub for everything retail technology. Based in the heart of Startup Nation, we have access to a growing network of over 500 tech companies building cutting-edge solutions for the future of retail. Join me and the team at the annual event Retech Disrupt, April 15th to the 17th in Tel Aviv, Israel. See you there and see retail innovation in action. A little bit about technology, because you've gotten into technology, you leveraged it to move Vitamin Shops forward. What are you leaning into right now to help move the company forward?
So the first thing we're doing is we're really connecting with the consumer we use Salesforce as our kind of our back engine, and we're doing a tremendous amount of work to really know our customer, because we haven't known her very well at all, and to develop programs around personalization and to make sure that we're providing the tools for our teams to be able to make sure that we can provide her a better experience. Today, it has been very much a one-size-fits-all mentality around how we talk to her, the way we take what she provides us in terms of her information, and our ability. This is a very personal service, and we've got to make sure that we can provide the tools for our associates to be able to deliver on that. I'm a huge fan. I know there's a lot of talk about AI right now and what artificial intelligence can do. And in particular, when you think about the consumer journey and being able to serve up content through the right data and the algorithms that you can provide, it can be a huge boost to the person that's having the conversation with the customer to be able to deliver on that experience. And that's something that we're really looking at to see how we can embed that into how we will engage with her in the future. As you can see from what we do today, we have a lot of catching up to do. I'm looking at it as not just catching up, but kind of, leapfrogging, if you will, because by the time we catch up, everything will have moved on. So I would rather get to where we need to be in the future now so that we're building the right tech stack. We're building the right, consumer journeys in terms of the way that she really wants to engage with us.
Two questions. One, how are you marketing? What is the most effective way to market to her to make the brand better known? And then question number two, why is it only to her? I mean, aren't there guys out there? Sounds like we're not part of the equation today. Listen, it's fine. I mean, guys are having a tougher and tougher time in today's world. The paradigm has shifted. That's okay. But so how are you marketing to her, and when will he be part of the equation?
Yeah. So the reason why we talk about her is because we haven't talked about her at all. And 90% of our customers are female and 95% of our workforce is female. And so part of what we have to do is we have to know who she is, because she is a huge part of what we are today. It's not that I'm trying to be exclusive, but I am trying to make sure that the organization really understands who our target is today and that we connect all of that, because what we're doing today is trying to make sure that we really understand the consumer. You know that I'm a huge fan and huge advocate. If you've got to know, love, embrace everything you can about your consumer so that you can deliver and serve up your content, your brand, your experience, whatever that is, to deliver for what she's looking for, and maybe even help her with what she doesn't even know she needs yet. And that's where we're focusing first. It's not that we're excluding the guys. I love everyone. But I want to, you can only do so much, and we've got to really get the model right first so that we can do other things. There is something about, and I've been criticized around sometimes, putting 10 pounds in a 5-pound sack. And I'm really trying to take my own advice about making sure that we focus in on truly the engine that we need to drive and propel this business forward so it's ready to scale in the future. Specifically to marketing for us right now, we're learning a lot about our consumer. Our consumer wants to be spoken to, wants to be part of a community, and is very social, very, very social, very digital. And we are not there for her today. So when you ask about marketing and what are we doing today, we're learning a lot. Right now, we're predominantly very bottom of the funnel driven. We are not a full funnel shop right now when we look at our marketing and our marketing spend, and we are in the process of developing that today. So again, more to come on that one. I'll have more on that in the next several months.
Before we go to the last part of the program, tell us a little bit more about the franchise model. Is that the model of the future? Are there company-owned stores as well?
Yeah. So for Ideal, we are predominantly company owned. And the reason for that is because of all of the legality and the licensing that goes on. Ideal, there are not nationwide practices in the medical aesthetic space. It is state by state, and there are different laws and regulations state by state. And it's pretty complicated, actually, as I've gotten to learn the business a little bit more. So right now, it's easier to manage it centrally. We do have some franchisees. They're wonderful, wonderful folks. They've been around for a long time. But interestingly enough, they run their business very separate from the company-owned business. So I actually had the franchisees into the office about a month ago when they asked me specifically this question. So what are you going to do going forward? And my answer was, I don't know yet. It's about really understanding the model, because if we can't deliver the model right as a company-owned business and the way it needs to be to scale it, we certainly can't support franchisees appropriately as well. So we've got to make sure what I'm focused on right now is let's get the model really, really right, not only in terms of what we want to deliver for the consumer, but obviously for our P&L perspective to make sure it's delivering the financial expectations that we expect.
Awesome. You ready for rapid fire?
Sure.
Let's go. Favorite boss?
Alex Smith.
Who would you most like to meet?
2 people, actually. Melinda Gates and Mackenzie Scott. I think what they are doing on the philanthropy right now is pretty extraordinary.
And what book should we all read?
I think everybody needs to read the new book called Outlive. It's a book about how to live a healthier life and about from preventative. It's actually a New York Times bestseller. It's right now. I think it was number 1 last week by Dr. Pita Attia. Hope I'm saying his name right now properly, but it's really about the science around nutrition, exercise, sleep, emotional and mental health, and what it means to your health. And I think there is a tremendous opportunity in education around, how medicine is delivered today and what can be done through a healthy lifestyle.
What superpower do you wish you had?
The ability to let go and relax. I don't do that very well. My husband tells me that all the time.
And what time is your flight today? No, I won't touch on that. I know we've got to wrap up. So final question.
Yes.
Other than Ideal Image, what company would you love to run?
I don't know that I'd run another company. I would probably build another lifestyle brand, or I would actually run a foundation or a philanthropic organization so that I could give back and hopefully make the world a better place.
Sharon, this has been an amazing flight on the Retail Pilot. I love having you as a guest and seeing you. And when we can't meet in person, we have to resort to podcasts. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and let's stay in touch.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks, Ken. Thanks for having me. Take care.
This is your host, Ken Pilot, landing the plane for this episode of the Retail Pilot, Leaders and Legends. Hope you enjoyed the flight. If so, please follow us on your favorite podcast app.